Alright, this is a pull start for a Honda 85 Honda 125M. We're going to grease the rope, we're going to redo the spring, we're going to do a full disassemble and reassemble on it. The handle is already disconnected. There's the metal cap that you need. Make sure you got that with your handle. Some of us have this plastic cover, some of us don't. Not a big deal if you don't. It does help to keep the moisture out. So I do recommend, if you can get one, get one. It'll save your rope in the long run from snapping right up here at the cap, because when it gets rusty and nasty from rain getting on it, it will eventually just break. Now you just unscrew, take your ratchet, 10mm, get this nut, loosen it up. I can hold down on this metal cover usually and just unscrew it by hand. Take the metal cover off. Make sure you apply grease here. This is the actuator for the actual ratchet that's inside here that does your flywheel. There's a spring set up right here. There's a metal cap on one end of the spring. Okay. There's a metal cap on that. You'll see it when you pull it out. That end goes up. The regular spring goes down. Here is the actual ratchet itself. Pull that out. Okay. When you're reassembling, you can apply grease here, here, and along this base for your ratchet, so that way it has a nice smooth running. I've already got grease on there. Now, when you're going to take this apart, rotate it backwards while you pull it out. Okay? That will ensure that you don't take the spring with it. However, if your spring is really stuck to it, then your best bet is to you're going to have to redo your spring. And I will show you how to do that. I'll pull this spring out, get my gloves, and I will pull this spring out, and we will put this spring back in for you. I've got a lot of grease on this spring. I just made a video and had some sort of error at the end of it, so we're doing a second run through here. There we go. Spring's out. Now, like with any other Honda pull start, there is a metal tab right here. Make sure you can see it right there. You got an open gap right in here, metal tab, and the hook, the outside hook on the spring itself that you're going to be putting back in. Oh, there's also a little washer there too. Watch for that. That goes over the bolt. Make sure that you can't over tighten that nut on top. You're going to hook the outside of the spring right here to this, going in a clockwise direction. So, we are going to respring this now. It should only take a few minutes. Your main goal is, you hook it in, you hold that start with your thumb or any other finger to keep that down as you walk the spring around or rotate the pull starter. Okay? You'll rotate the housing. But your main goal is to keep that very end that you got that hook with down where it pops out. Make sure that tab that you're hooked it to is not bent, your spring isn't damaged, or you're looking at a new pull starter or a new spring, one or the other. But in the end, all you have to do is walk this spring around in circles or kind of feed the spring into it as you're rotating the outer shell. I tend to lean more towards walking the spring into it. For me, that seems to be a better option. I seem to do that a lot more than walking the housing. When I first learned and figured out how to do this, I walked the housing. There. The spring, get that little spacer there back on. Spring is back in. Okay, that other way. Spring's back in. That spacer's on there again. You can see it now, standing atop the top shoulder there. Okay, the spring's in. All that's ready. Apply a little grease to the top of your spring. Won't hurt it. Get some right where it connects to the drum, which is the plastic piece that we took out just a minute ago. This will help lubricate your spring up, help save it on its lifeline, its lifetime. Make it operate a little more smoother and not wear out as fast. Because if your spring gets all rusty, it's going to end up snapping. Or you're going to end up having some serious issues later on, and you don't want that. Now, with this style, there's a couple different ways you can do this one. I mean, it's not real hard to feed in one of these plastic drummed ones like this. They seem to have a better notch where you can bring the rope up. See how I got the rope up? You'll see that notch when you're there. You're going to want to feed this drum in to where you're not going to hit the hook on the drum to the spring. And you're going to want to rotate it 3 times. There's 2. There's 3. Okay. Now, you're going to want to feed this through that hole. Easier said than done, I know, but it can be done. I take vice grip, kind of grip onto the rope and the shell, so that way I'm not fighting with the drum while I'm trying to feed this through, because these ones are a little trickier, being that they're smaller than your normal 200 or 185 pull start. I'm going to bend the rope a little bit. I've already melted the end of this rope. But I'm going to bend it kind of snake-like, give it a curve so it feeds in there. And you're going to go looking, you're going to go feeling for that little hole. When you find it, you'll see it protrudes just a little bit. Get a good pair of tweezers. Get in there, grab that rope. Once you get it out a little ways, you can either pull it with your fingers, like that, or you can use a pair of needle nose and grab it and pull it. But your best bet is if your rope is the right size, is gonna be a pair of tweezers with the pointed end that you've melted to a point. So then take your rope, hold it with one hand. Well, let's put this back together first. That way, we don't have to worry about that popping off. Take the spring, remember, solid metal area on top. Put that in, it'll fit right over that little spacer you got there. You take your ratchet. You'll make sure the fat end points clockwise or to your right. Make sure you've got all that greased. I've got grease there. I don't need to re-grease it. You're going to take the actual actuator for the ratchet. You'll put that on top of that spring. Don't have it pushing on the ratchet itself because that's not necessary. Make sure you got lots of nice grease up in here and this little divot on the dome. You're going to push that down right on top. Hold it with 2 fingers and run your nut right on top. Yeah, I'll just run it by hand first, and there we go. Change this over to tighten. And then you can tighten it down. That's all you need. With that spacer in there, you will not over tighten, and it will turn. That's why that's there. Now, take and let go on this, rotate to there. See, and it'll suck your rope back, which you don't want. Now, to grease this rope, we're going to want to pull the rope all the way out. that will ensure that we can get it fully greased. Take the vice grips, clamp it right there so it doesn't suck back in. Now, your best bet is do it, bare skinned, because you don't want to make a mess of your gloves. Now, you're also going to want to run your rope through the dome or through the handle. You want to make sure that goes through there. You can give it, my little trick is give it a little twist and push. It usually kind of feeds right in over time. Or you can take your flathead screwdriver, which I've done to them before, and widen them out. Once you get it pushed through a little bit, and you can grab it with your needle nose, you can pull your rope through. Now you want to take and get it through this little cup here, this metal cup, because that's what's going to keep it in your handle forever. You take and you're going to tie a knot in that rope. Try and get it close to the end, because you don't want it, you don't want to have a big mess in there of excess string that you're trying to shove into your handle. They don't give you enough room for that. And if you've got a pre-greased rope like this one, you can take 2 pliers. Got to give it a good, nice little building tug, so that way it's a little better, tighter. Because otherwise they can pull out, and then you've got your rope loose and sucked into your machine. You don't want that either. So you're going to shove this into the cup. You shove the rope into the cup like that. Kind of wrap it. Make sure the whole thing gets in there. You got to squeeze it a little bit with your needle nose or whatever. That's fine. Just get it in as tight as you can, because that's your ultimate goal. Try and get it all pushed in there as best as you can. Suck it into the handle. So we don't have to worry about spacing on this one, because we ran with the rope wrapped on the drum first. So we know everything's going to be okay. Then you're going to push this cup, this metal cup, back in here, into your handle. And I usually take a flathead to push that in. So it sits down nice and tight. And I'll grab the rope with that, and I'll give it a good little tug, make sure it's not going to pull out. There we go. Now if you got this little plastic cap, go ahead and put that on. I don't know if this handle's going to take it one more time. Handle's pretty much shot. I'm going to be needing to get me a new handle soon. Fortunately, this 125M still has electric start, so I don't have to worry about that. So there we go. We got that cap on there. That cap keeps moisture out of your rope. Now, since we got all this rope out, what we're going to do is we're going to take a little grease, put it in our hand like that. You're going to take this rope, and you're just going to apply the grease. Okay? You're going to run it down the length of the rope. This will save the life of your rope a lot, by 100-fold. You don't want to add too much grease, because if you add too much grease, then you got a big mess. But it will keep your rope from wearing out faster, because you got to remember, your rope is going to slide against metal drum housing as you're pulling it out, because there's no way, I don't care who you are, I've seen the grooves on all of them, when you pull that rope, that it doesn't pull against the metal. So with the little bit of grease, it helps it wear better. So I've done cleaned up the grease off my hands. Put my gloves back on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my drum, let loose my vice grips, and I'm going to let it gradually, by releasing light pressure off my hand, suck this rope back in. Oh, come on now. There. I didn't get this one as tight as I wanted to, but it'll be all right. Like I said, I use electric start. Now, As you can see, when I pulled it out, the actuator came out. When it recoils back, the actuator sucks back in. Make sure you're not here. That's your end of your rope is in this little housing, that you've got it knotted right enough, and it's got the grooves on either way that you can put the excess string out. And that is it. That is the reassembly of a 125 from pulling it completely apart, minus pulling the rope all the way out of the drum. I mean, if you're going to replace the rope, it's really easy. Your hole is right there. You can run it right through the drum. But that's the reassembly and reinsertion of the spring. I hope that'll help you guys with your issues on them. The book tells you when you've got it wrapped like that, you've got it through this notch here in the drum with the rope to go 3 times. You can go 3, 4. I've gone 5 times before. You know, if you think you need that much extra tension on it because you think you're going to have that much extra rope, do it. Take that extra tension. You're not going to snap that spring yet. I mean, if you're going to wind it up about 7, 8 times, you're going to put way too much tension on your spring. You don't need that much. But otherwise, that's the reassembly of that. I'll be doing one more video dealing with a Yamaha 200 pull start. Thank you for watching. Hope this will solve any problems or questions you guys might have.